Hi, my name is Michael Sahno. I'm Jewish and I love Israel. So if you love Israel, if you love being Jewish, or if you have an unwavering connection to the land of Israel, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the 12 Cities in Israel podcast. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? My name is Michael Sahno, and welcome to the 12 Cities in Israel podcast, the only positive podcast about the people, the food, and the culture of the state of Israel. Hey, listen, if this is your first time watching, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And if you'd like to take this video with you, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or on Spotify and on Spotify. So, if you want to take us with you, if you want to go jogging, to the gym, ride in your car, and listen to my amazing voice, please do that. SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and on Spotify. Got that twice. It was the and or. I think it got me a little confused. All right. Also, this podcast is brought to you by the 12 Cities in Israel Modern Hebrew Flashcards. These are my flashcards. These are our flashcards. Right now we have the Aleph Bet set. You can find it on Amazon for your Kindle. And we will talk more about that at the end of the episode. All right, welcome back. This is this is part 2 of the Be'er Sheva episode. And I ended last episode talking about up until independence. So I had covered all the way back to Abraham and Abimelech and the well, and how Abraham and Isaac both had to make agreements, oaths, with Abimelech to have rights to water in the area, which goes all the way now to what would be modern day Israel. So when I say modern, I'm talking about the modern history up until now. And so where did we leave off? We left off at the War for Independence. So what happened? David Ben Gurion announced to the world, Israel declares its independence. The surrounding states attacked. One of those states was Egypt, and Egypt had a foothold and had moved into, are you ready for this? They had moved into Be'er Sheva. So at the end of last episode, I gave some demographics, how there had been Jewish families in Be'er Sheva, Ottoman up until the Mandate, and I think the numbers were 80 families, and then the next census was 80 individuals, then the next census was 11 individuals, and then it was 0. Well, David Ben Gurion wasn't about this. He had a problem with this. And him and a general, what's his name? I think it's Yoav Alon, who was the former commander of the Palmach and general of the IDF. They decided with Operation hold on, because this was a big part of it, and I feel like I should be a little more prepared. Operation Yoav. So part of that Operation Yoav was to capture Be'er Sheva with the intention of bringing it into the state of Israel. Ben Gurion and most Jews in the former Palestine Mandate recognized the connection that Be'er Sheva, the biblical connection that it had, and wanted it very much so to be a part of the state. Now, originally, it was going to be a part of the state. That's the funky part. So originally in the partition plan, the original proposal had Be'er Sheva in the partition plan. So in the Israel portion of the 1947 partition plan. But what happened was Egypt had been moving troops into the area, and they had lobbied the ad hoc committee, the committee that came after, and said, we have troops there. That's like tactically and strategically. And they bought it. And so it was removed. Ooh, swindle. Well, that swindle was rectified, and I think it was ridiculous. I think the attack started. There was bombing on the 19th of 1948, October 19th. Let me look. The bombing started on October 19th, 1948. How do I remember that? And they started shelling Egyptian positions. And then on the 21st, the ground forces moved in. And they moved in so fast that it overwhelmed Egyptian positions. Most of them were in shock and just fled. And they were captured. They were interned until the end of the war and then released. A number of residents, I didn't know this, a number of residents supported the Egyptian forces and even fought against the Israelis. And as such, they were deemed, a security risk. And a number of families were deported to Transjordan and to Gaza. Now, there is this big narrative that the majority of the Arabs were expelled from Be'er Sheva, and that is not true. And it's 100% not true. And I'm going to tell you, anyone who thinks that has never been to Be'er Sheva, because it is one of the Israeli cities that I have noticed that has a considerable Arab population. If you are in the shopping and transportation centers, if you are over by the university, all over the place, there are Arabs everywhere. And it's weird because I couldn't imagine the city being without Arabs. It adds a flavor and a dynamic that just makes Be'er Sheva what it is. It wouldn't be what it was without the Arab population. They bring a lot to the table. So there. My wife even mentioned it. My wife even commented when we were there. I go every year, but my wife was there 2 years ago. We had to go to we went to a wedding. We didn't have to go. We wanted to go. And she was like, there's so many Arabs. And I was like, yeah, it's. So one of the things that is amazing about Be'er Sheva and why it breaks the narrative is because it has one of the oldest markets, and it's the Bedouin market. And this Bedouin market, you can buy camels. It's still, totally. You can buy camels, sheep, goat, chickens, all that stuff. Goats. And it has been here, and some say it's been there for over 1,000 years. Now, after the war, there was an exclusion zone put into place, but that was for security reasons. And that security zone over time was lifted, and people were allowed to go back to where they needed to go to within the, the structures of the security that Israel, the security dictates and mandates that they had decided were the best. Is it good for everyone? No. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be good for everyone, but it was the best that they could do in order to maintain security. So, point is, Be'er Sheva is a bustling multicultural city that you have to see. Now, after the war, I think the town had 10,000. Do I have this number right? Well, after the war, the 1949 armistice agreement with all the nations surrounding, all the nations that had attacked, placed Be'er Sheva within the borders of Israel. So, boom, any haters, any person who's got a dispute, it's settled. Okay, so Be'er Sheva is part of Israel. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry if I hurt someone's feelings or upset them about it. So, what happened after that, though, is that this wave of immigration came in. So part of the expulsion, I'm talking about after independence, there was an expulsion. this expulsion happened in a lot of Arab countries, and countries like Yemen, Persia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Egypt. They expelled all of their Jews. The vast majority of their Jews had to leave the country and came to Israel. So there was this mass influx of Jews from Arab countries, Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews, and that added to the swelling of the population of Be'er Sheva, and it's why there are so many. There's a large Moroccan community, which I am honored to be a part of. What up, Moti? And there's also, well, let me go through this. Hold on. So, as of today, Be'er Sheva has approximately 210,000 people. Let me take a sip of coffee. Hold on. So, let's contrast this with 1956, where Be'er Sheva had 22,000. Now, I don't know if you guys watched the last video, but 2,500 was the population at the end of the mandate. I think 2,700. The population of Be'er Sheva had 2,700. In 1956, it had 22,000 people. In 1968, the population grew to 80,000 people. In 1960, though, before that, Soroka Hospital was established. And it is awesome. It's one of the preeminent medical centers in Israel. And it is the medical center for the Negev. So, and it's pretty awesome. And they have a lot of relationships with Ben-Gurion University. What up? I went there for 2 ulpans, so it's really close to my heart. Can I call it? If I went there for 2 ulpans, is it my alma mater? I don't know. Maybe. So in 1969 is when the University of the Negev, which later became Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, that was established. And there's a funny story about that. So one of my close friends, Malka Reisner, she is the, I don't know if I get this right every time. She is the international liaison for the city of Be'er Sheva. She's amazing. She's a sweetheart. She is awesome. And her sister, she moved to Be'er Sheva because her sister made Aliyah from the U.S. to Be'er Sheva. And she worked, when her sister walked to work, her sister worked at Ben-Gurion University. She used to walk on dirt roads. And they hadn't even paved the roads yet. So these are real people who lived in Be'er Sheva up until probably the 70s could still be considered chalutzim, pioneers. So there's this, for those of you who don't know, people who think about Aliyah, we think about the people who moved in the early days and set up the kibbutzim, and they're mythologized, and it's pretty cool from my perspective and from a lot of people's perspective. But there was still that pioneer spirit in moving to the south. And I got to be honest, it's still the buildings and all of it, you could still feel it. So, yes, a friend of mine's sister walked on dirt roads to go to work every day. How cool. Well, it wasn't cool probably for her at the time. And it was hot. So, sorry. So what did I say? I said in 1968, the population had grown to 80,000. And in 1983, it was all the way up to 110,000. So just prior to 1983, something really cool happened. In 1979, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, may he rest in peace, visited Be'er Sheva. So here you have an amazing turn of events. You had Egyptian forces that Israel fought against and the forgiveness it must have taken to honor and welcome Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. I'm moved by that. And that's why I don't like that narrative I was talking about in the beginning. I'm not feeling it. It is such a warm, inclusive place. So, during the 1990s, there was the post-Soviet Aliyah. So there were two Aliyahs from movements, immigrations from different countries, and to bring Jews back to Israel. And one of them occurred in the 80s. And that was when Natan Sharansky, who eventually became the head of the Jewish Agency, he was imprisoned in Siberia. He was he was a cultural activist because he was proud of being Jewish. And he loved being Jewish, and he advocated for being Jewish and our traditions and our all of it. And he was jailed for it. And this was at the time of the Soviet Union. And finally, a bunch of Western nations lobbied for their allowance to make Aliyah. And they all came over to Israel. And one of the places that these new immigrants came to was Be'er Sheva. Also, after the Cold War, when the Soviet Union fell, boom, a bunch more Russian immigrants came to Be'er Sheva. So you can hear so many different languages. And before I go into that, I have to tell you about another group that made Aliyah and decided to make Be'er Sheva their home. And that's the Beta Israel community, the Ethiopian Jews. And they're amazing. I had an opportunity to meet, it's actually kind of a funny, quick story. So I was walking back and forth every day. I would just go for this walk when I was at Ulpan the first time. And there was this old Ethiopian man. And he would sit on this, like this barrier. It wasn't a chair. It was just like a little low rock wall. And he would sit there every day, and he was smoking his cigarettes. And I'd walk by every day, and I'd say shalom, and he would not even move a muscle. And every day I would walk by and say shalom. And one day I walked by and I said hello, and he said hello. And I started talking to him, and I would say hi to him every single time. And over time, a couple of weeks, we got to talking as good as we could. We communicated as well as we could, but I could feel something. And I wonder if he still sits there. He probably does. But my whole point is, warm, wonderful group of people. And their traditions are being kept alive in Be'er Sheva, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So, there are so many things to do in Be'er Sheva. So now we're at present day. We got almost 210,000 people. So, still, what's there to do? I know what there is to do in Tel Aviv. I know what there is to do in Yerushalayim. I know what there is to do in Haifa. Maybe you don't. A lot of people don't know what to do in Haifa. But anyways, we're not talking about Haifa. We're talking about Be'er Sheva. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Peter, again, this is for you. All right. So, first, I have to tell you about how you get there. So you drive down through the south, and you come down on the highway. You'll probably take the train. But if you ever get the opportunity to drive down, it's amazing. Because it's wide open. It is wide open. You're in the steppes, which are low grasslands. And it goes on forever. It goes on as far as the eye can see. And the highway just shoots straight down. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's buildings. And you enter Be'er Sheva, and it's this promenade, this boulevard that you go down, and you're like, all of a sudden there's apartment buildings everywhere, people walking around everywhere, and it's just fabulous. It's amazing. There are 2 train stations if you want to get there. There is Be'er Sheva North, which is a university, and Be'er Sheva city center, Be'er Sheva Center. And it's right next door to the bus station, too, which is amazing. There's this mall in there, and there's a McDonald's, which I've eaten in, and it's awesome. But anyways, also, so when you come in, all roads take you to the center because it's built on this enormous radio plan. For those of you who want to do the tourism things, there is the Abraham Center, the Avraham Center, and let me look real quick. Hold on, because I have the full name of it. It is the knee deep. I have so many notes on this place. Yes, Be'er Avraham, the Abraham's Well International Visitor Center, and they have a bunch of exhibits and stuff there. They have so there's a dispute. There's a dispute real quick. We're going to talk about the well. So Be'er Sheva means one of two things, either 7 wells or 7 oaths. And neither one is right and neither one is wrong. That's the beauty of it. So feel free to say it is this. And don't be mean and don't correct someone if they say it's the other thing, because it is. So there's a dispute as to whether or not the well is in the old city or it's in this place, Tel Be'er Sheva, which is 4 kilometers, I think, east? Maybe not. But it's 4 kilometers away. And that is what is deemed the archaeological site of what would be the biblical Be'er Sheva, and the historic site that goes all the way back to Roman times, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I think it's Roman times. Maybe even Persian. I don't know. But there's so many things to do. So many cultural things. And one of the most amazing things about all the cultural things to do in Be'er Sheva is they're all tied into the community. So let's say you're a part of you go to a museum in Cleveland or Miami or New York, and it says, well, we do arts with the community, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I'm not buying it 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, it's just an excuse to feel good about, for individuals who donate to feel good about themselves. In Be'er Sheva, it's totally different. It's not a snooty thing. It literally has as part of its mission a community component where people are a part of it. All the art centers. There's a couple of them. I'm going to read off a bunch of them. But two of the things are friends that I have been associated or own. One of them is the Kamea Dance Company, and a really great friend of mine, someone I did an interview with, but am also a friend of Alexandra Zaslav. She's an amazing dancer. She is trained as a dancer, and that is, I think it was her first professional gig, the Kamea Dance Company, and it is located in Be'er Sheva, and they do all kinds of wonderful things. I'm going to put a link for them in the description. The other thing is Wabi Sabi Studio, which is an art studio run by a friend of mine, Hadar Rabinovich, who I also interviewed. I'll put her interview in there too, in the description. And she uses her studio to directly interact with the community and to help the community explore themselves through art. And it's awesome. And this is basically the theme of arts and culture in Be'er Sheva. So we have the Negev Museum of Art, and that is the main art museum in southern Israel. One of the things I wanted, it's in what was officially the residence of the Turkish manager or governor. No, the Turkish governor. And it was built in 1906. But they do a lot of stuff. They have a lot of art programs and classes and all kinds of stuff. You also have the Fringe Theater, which is it's sort of like a public theater. And they also do workshops, theater workshops and stuff like that, and they involve people from the community and outreach to the community. It's really great. You have the House of Ethiopian Jewish Arts, and this blows me away. It really does. This is basically, I don't know if this is culturally what it is, but what it was alluding to is that this is for women. And it gave me the impression that Ethiopian women are the primary artistic drivers of their community. And they make things right there, and they're for sale right there. So that's awesome. That's so cool. So blown away. There is so much. There is also the Be'er Sheva Theater, which also does theater outreach, and that's the main theater. That's the big, like, they'll have major productions. They have a bunch of productions every year. They have an opera, operas every year, a couple of them, and it's just, but they also do an outreach component where they have classes and stuff like that. And I think actually are they the one that does stuff for special needs? Let me see. Hold on. Well, anyways, there are also a bunch of community outreach programs for special needs that are put on through the arts in Be'er Sheva, and it's just phenomenal. There is so much I could talk about. There is the river park. So most of you who are thinking about it right now are going, Be'er Sheva has a river? Yes, it's actually called the Be'er Sheva River. And that has the Enbar Promenade, the Pipes Bridge. The Pipes Bridge is this amazing bridge that has sails on it, and as the sun sets, they turn the lights on, and the colors rotate, pink, orange. It's absolutely fabulous. It's beautiful. There is this enormous amphitheater that holds, I think, 12,000 people. They just built a man-made lake. They just built it. And it is an entirely new neighborhood. It's off of the, I think it's off of the Riverwalk. The old city, speaking of walking, the old city is entirely walkable. There's all kinds of stuff to do down there. There's the old Turkish rail yard, which also has exhibits. It has, what else? It has a restaurant, a ton of stuff. There's the Carasso Children's Museum, which is down in the old city near there. They have open exhibits. They actually have stuff kids can do, science kids can do hands-on. It's phenomenal. Ben Gurion University, as I said, is there. They have their hands in everything. They have the medical center. So this is cool. So they have the medical center. They have a medical school that works with Soroka Medical Center, and it is entirely English language. So you could go to medical school in Israel, become a doctor, and boom, there you go. They also work with the Gavyam Tech Park, which is on the other side of the train station from the university. The Gavyam Tech Park has Oracle, Lockheed Martin, because the YF-2030, whatever, super fighter is there, in the Air Force Base around Be'er Sheva. The Be'er Sheva there's an Air Force Museum a couple of miles away you can take a cab to, Israeli Air Force Museum. The IDF cybersecurity unit just moved there, so they're bringing all this interaction with the world of academia and the world of defense and security and computer technology. Ben Gurion University is always also involved in revitalizing the Negev and water resource management and science. It's just freaking amazing. Be'er Sheva is awesome. If you haven't, and it's up on my screen right now, Be'er Sheva is awesome. I love it. You need to love it too, and the best way to love it is by going there. So, so that's Be'er Sheva, and I hope you enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's Be'er Sheva in a nutshell. I covered the old history, I covered the new history, and I told you what's there. So please go. Go, go, go. And yeah, so that's it. That's it for this episode. If you like this episode, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. Again, if you want to take us with you, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and on Spotify. I told you in the beginning that this episode was brought to you by the 12 Cities in Israel Modern Hebrew Flashcards. Our flashcards are available on Amazon for Kindle. Right now we have the Aleph Bet set, so you can learn the Aleph Bet in print and in script in a really easy to use format, and I encourage you to go check it out. It's on Kindle Unlimited too, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. If you don't, it only costs $9.99. It's really cheap, and it comes with basically 2 sets of flashcards. We also have the numbers set, Israeli numbers, or Hebrew numbers, so numbers in Hebrew. That'll be out sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm finishing them up right now, and I'm releasing some of them on Instagram, so check us out. You can find them on all of our social media, and that would be on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, hey, thanks for watching this episode and suffering through my joy of Be'er Sheva. And that's it. All right, תודה רבה, להתראות ויאללה ביי. והיא איננה, גם כשרחוקה היא ממני. זיכרונה עולה שוב בליבי הלילה, איך אותה רציתי כל חיי. ידי בידה ולאור ירח עוד יאיר לי כוכב. היא תבוא אליי ליבה פורח, כל ימי אותה אוהב. רק זאת ביקשתי בידה אחזתי, היא כמו חלום שלא נגמר. רק זאת שאלתי, שליבי נתתי, הושעתי לפרח הנשאר. רק זאת שאלתי, שליבי נתתי, הושעתי לפרח הנשאר. ציפור נודדת מחפשת מולדת על ענף עץ בטוח התיישב